Solving equations by multiplying or dividing. Our objective is to solve one-step equations using multiplication or division. Why learn this? Pilots can make quick calculations by solving one-step equations. Let's first look at the inverse operations for multiplication and division. The inverse operation of multiplication is division, and the inverse operation of division is multiplication. Essentially, multiplication and division are opposites of each other. Let's try solving a few equations. So, to start, we want to make sure that we know where each side of our equation is. Alright, on the right-hand side of the equation, we have k divided by negative 5. So, to get rid of this divided by negative 5 and get k by itself, we need to do the opposite of dividing, which is multiplying. So we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by negative 5. Well, that leaves just k on the right-hand side. And now we have a negative times a negative, which is a positive. And 4 times 5 is 20. Let's double check our work. Is negative 4 in fact equal to 20 divided by negative 5? Yes, it is. Alright, take a moment and pause the video and try B. Now that you've had a moment to try B, let's try it together. So let's start with splitting our equation. We have m divided by 3, so we want to multiply both sides of the equation by 3 to get m by itself, our ultimate goal. So we're going to times both sides, or multiply both sides of our equation by 3, which leaves us with m on the left equals 4.5. Let's double check. So we have 4.5 divided by 3. Is that equal to 1.5? Yes, it is. So we're good to go. Now let's try solving equations by using division. Alright, so let's start with dividing our equation up here. Alright, so we have 7 times x equals 56. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we want to divide both sides of the equation by 7. That leaves us with only an x on the left, and 56 divided by 7 is 8. Let's double check our work. 7 times 8. Does that in fact equal 56? Yes, it does. So we're good to go. Let's try B. Take a moment and pause the video. Now that you've had a moment to try B on your own, let's try it together. So let's start by splitting up our equation. Alright, so we have negative 2 times w. We want to get w by itself. So we're going to divide both sides of the equation by negative 2. Which leaves us with w equals, we have a positive divided by a negative, so we know our answer is going to be negative. And in this case, we have 6.5. Let's try it out. Is 13 in fact equal to negative 2 times negative 6.5? Well, we have a negative times a negative, so our sign is correct. It needs to be positive. And 2 times 6.5 is in fact 13. So we're good to go. Let's get a little trickier. Solving equations that contain fractions. We'll do the first one together. So we'll start by splitting our equation so we know our left from our right. And we currently have 5/9 times v equals 35. We want to get v by itself. Well, since you're multiplying, you're going to divide. So essentially you're dividing by 5/9 on both sides of the equation. Think back to a previous course. Whenever you divide by a fraction, is there some other way you can think about this? Yes, it's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So whenever you divide by a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal. All right, so that leaves 5/9 times 9/5. That leaves you with 1v. And that's going to equal, and now we're going to have 35 times 9, and then divide that by 5, which leaves you with 63. All right, let's double check our work. So we have 5/9 times 63. Does that in fact equal 35? Yes, it does, so we're good to go. Try this next one on your own. Now that you've had a chance to try this next one on your own, let's try it together. So we're going to separate our equation. All right, so this you can simply say is the same thing. Here, we'll do it in pink. Change colors here. Is the same thing as saying 4/3 y. So, just like the one on the left-hand side, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal because we're dividing by a fraction. So, we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 3/4. Remember, reciprocal just means you're flipping your fraction upside down. Alright, so now we have just y on the right-hand side of the equation. And on the left-hand side, we have 15/8. Time to double check our work. Is 5/2 in fact equal to 4/3 times 15/8? Yes, it is. We're good to go. Let's look at an aviation application. The distance in miles from the airport that a plane should begin descending divided by 3 equals the plane's height above the ground in thousands of feet. If a plane is 10,000 feet above the ground, write and solve an equation to find the distance at which the pilot should begin descending. So distance divided by 3 equals height in thousands of feet. Alright, so we have distance divided by 3 equals our height. Well, what do we know? Do we know our d or our h, our distance or our height? Well, it's asking us to find the distance, so therefore we know our height, and that would be 10,000. So 10, because it's height in thousands of feet. Alright, so now we have d divided by 3, so we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 3, which then will leave us with 30 feet. Alright, time to wrap it up. The top two we've already discussed in a previous video, but it's good to see it again sometimes. The bottom two are new ones from this section that we just learned. So, multiplication property of equality. You can multiply both sides of an equation by the same number and the statement will still be true. So if you multiply both sides of the equation by 3, your answer is still going to be the same. It doesn't matter what you multiply it by. The division property of equality. you can divide both sides of an equation by the same non-zero number. Remember, you can't divide by 0. And the statement will still be true. So if you divide by any value of c, you'll end up with an equal statement because it's the division property of equality. Well, that concludes our lesson on solving equations by multiplying or dividing.